Hello. In the beginning, I will show myself to the virtual audience. Hello, my name is Tiit Bürkland. Hello, everybody. I represent the BIM Solutions Group in Estonia, and we operate in the Baltics, Georgia, and Ukraine. Our goal is to improve productivity and offer modern solutions for the construction sector. Today we are going to talk about BIM in maintenance and operation phase. BIM in operation and maintenance phase has been a controversial topic in the last few years. The owners are asking designers to provide a lot of data in their BIM models. But at the same time, there is no clear and obvious market-leading solution, if any solution at all, that is actually used in practice. And the designers know that. And that is what creates these heated discussions between owners and designers at prominent groups like the Estonian Digital Construction Cluster and at some events like the BIM Summit. Today, we are here to actually tell you that the solutions are there. So please, let's see what the solutions are. Right after me, Eriks Vitols from the Baltic BIM Management will take the stand and explain what's happening with BIM in the construction and handover phase. And then Julien Benoit from Catenda will tackle the main topic, which is the BIM in operation and maintenance phase. Also, in other words, BIM in facility management. So please, Eriks.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody who's here, and hope that everybody can hear me well. Also, who's joined online. So I'm gonna put on my presentation, and I'm going to begin. Just a second. So yeah, I hope you can see my screen. It seems like it should be seen quite well. Okay. So yeah, so I have 20 minutes. I will put on my timer to keep myself in. So yeah, so my topic is BIM application in construction and handover phase. And first, I'm just in a few words about me, just to give the relevance. Yeah, my background is civil engineering. I'm from Riga Technical University. I also have MBA in Riga Business School. I also have board member education in Baltic Institute of Corporate Governance. Yeah, several certificates, and mainly my experience is coming from, in the beginning, from structural engineering. Then I went to construction management, and then I ended up in digital construction world. And yeah, I've been practically applying BIM since 2012. So yeah, I have some experience in working with BIM. Yeah, regarding company that represent, it's Baltic BIM Management. So what we offer is like BIM management services. Lately, we are very active in BIM expertise, providing BIM strategies. So we've been developing strategy, for example, for Latvian road administration, for Riga Airport, and some others. And yeah, we also sort of offer 4D, 5D, 6D BIM services. And one significant thing is that we have a portfolio of over 1 million square meters, which kind of typically working with large international projects, typically complicated BIM requirements. And typically we are bringing BIM further in the construction and maintenance phase. So yeah, there's a couple of our customers. Most likely you can recognize them. They typically operate in Baltics and somewhere outside of them. So thinking about BIM in construction and handover phase, sort of what exactly it means, and what is sort of what it's required for us to actually go into the construction phase and maintenance phase. Typically, it's requires to improve construction management, and you have to update BIM in order to align with actual geometry. We actually have to add maintenance-related information to BIM elements. Again, it's sort of related to updating BIM model during the construction phase. And also collecting and structuring all construction-related data, which in a sense is a project information model. So why should owner care? Because obviously we are today speaking more from the owner's side rather than from design and construction side. So in a sense, BIM opens an opportunity to sort of leverage BIM to improve both transparency during the construction and also prepare the base for more efficient way of maintaining facilities, right? And if we sort of separate these two things, in the construction phase, BIM allows us to give clarity also about statuses, about what quantities are actually built, for what type of quantity we have to pay, how does the schedule look like, and etc. So this sort of BIM application in the construction phase is, we have identified it's more about transparency and preparation for a handover phase, which in a sense is digital information prepared and developed in a way which can be used then for other software during the maintenance phase, or in a way just improving efficiency and facility management procedures. So yeah, I will quickly go through construction phase and I will more focus on maintenance phase. And by the way, if there's some questions from audience and both from online or here, yeah, feel free to ask. So yeah, so one thing that we are typically working in the construction phase is quantity classification and takeoff. This is actually proved to be very valuable both during the tender phase, when we're actually trying to grasp what exactly is within a building, how much will it cost, how would you benchmarks to the baseline quantity takeoff. And then the second phase is during the construction phase, when we linking and understanding quantities throughout the project development, meaning that we are first classifying and then extracting quantities whenever it's needed to support construction procedures. And it's typically also linked with the fabricators as well, in order to understand how much do we have to fabricate and etc. When it comes to schedule, again, BIM serves well in terms of understanding basically construction schedule. And one thing about 4D, you know, typically in multiple different marketing materials, 4D is represented as this sort of nice movie, which is we sometimes called like Hollywood BIM, which is nice and gives you like good understanding how the building will be constructed, and gives you a first indication whether your schedule is actually constructible. And the actual reality from the 4D point of view is the data that we can extract from BIM, which is linked with the schedule. Sort of meaning that when we have construction schedule, when we have contract baseline schedule, and when we have BIM model, we can link them together and extract statistical data, which means that we can make a decision quickly whenever it's needed. So this is just an example from one of our projects in which we use data from schedule and data from BIM. We collected the statuses from the construction and then sort of compared them with the model. And again, one important thing, of course, is we have to maintain BIM model, meaning that if there are some changes, we have to incorporate changes both in a model and both in a schedule. Sort of we always have to take care about the quality of BIM when it comes to 4D. And if the quality of BIM model is good, which this sort of drives the development of as-built BIM, which will then we use for facility management purposes. And of course, as I mentioned, it's very important to ensure that during the construction phase, BIM model is maintained and correspond to what's actually built on a construction site. And there's a couple of methodologies on how to verify conditions on a site, and these are two. For us, we most likely in most cases we rely on laser scan data. Sometimes we use augmented reality. We basically multiple different methodologies can be used to capture as-built data, but it is important to capture it, because if you're thinking about the long-term or application of BIM model during the construction phase, it is important to ensure that all the changes, identified changes, are incorporated into as-built BIM in order to develop this as-built BIM for further usage. So yeah, so two methodologies typically used. Actually, laser scan is getting more and more available in a sense of costs and technology, which means that this approach of capturing data on a site and comparing with BIM model getting more and more used during the construction phase of BIM project execution. So yeah, so in a sense, if you're thinking about the construction phase, there's not that much to it, to be honest. You know, well, of course, we have to take care of all the documentation which we are collecting during the construction phase, and this is actually very challenging procedure, and more about this will be in the next presentation. But the fact is that typically 3 use cases are the most used for the construction phase, which is status management and so-called 4D. Then we are sort of using quantities and verifying whether and sort of verifying and capturing existing data to ensure that we are building according to BIM. And the third is collecting all of the data to prepare project information model. So yeah, and ultimately during the construction phase, if everything goes well, we are sort of moving to handover phase. And when it comes to handover phase, we have to take into consideration facility management and procedures which involves in it. And you know, when we're thinking about sort of maintenance, there's a lot of different procedures. Like we have to take care of maintenance schedule, we have to take care about document management, we have to organize sort of different changes, we have to inspect defects and manage them as well. There's we have to manage tenants. There's like a lot of different other type of procedures, and we have to take that into consideration as soon as possible whenever we are deciding that we shall go and use BIM for facility management, sort of use and leverage BIM for the facility management procedures. Otherwise, we typically always rely on digital data. So yeah, and typically how this is approached is that there's supposed to be a facility management plan, which sort of taking care and sort of describes what information about the property is necessary, what strategy on objectives or KPIs should be reached during FM procedures, what type of assets, what type of systems are within the building, list of sort of management or measured activities. We have to think about different flowcharts, maintenance schedules, specific requirements, and lately, and one of the most important thing right now actually is also using of different IT technologies, meaning that we have to think about IT softwares as soon as possible, even though not always it's possible, because we have to understand that some projects sort of the end of the construction phase might be after several years, so it's hard to predict. And still, we have to try to grasp what technologies we're planning to apply during facility maintenance. And the good way is to go and do it through facility management plan. And if we're thinking about IT software, there's so many different softwares available right now, which helps you to maintain building. And there's not necessarily software, there's also IoT technologies. There's many different sensors. There's other systems which allow you to control all the sort of ventilation, electrical systems, and etc. So, but in order to leverage all different IT tools which can be used to improve operation and maintenance phase, we have to take care about the data. We have to think about structured data, categorized data, to be then used by these softwares to improve one or other processes which involves in facility management. And there are several obstacles when it comes to improve efficiency in facility management. Typically, it's well, I guess this is not right now, but still in some project information is still not in a digital form, and it typically applies to some documents and contracts which not in digital form, which means that we don't have this quality project information which to be aligned with all the digital information with the model. Sometimes it's a missing document. Sometimes we have digital, but we miss some different assets. Quite often, design and execution diagrams do not correspond to what was actually built, meaning that during the construction, a construction company prepare measurements which not really align with what's actually built. And it's typically it's typical case when not appropriate measurement methodology is used, and this information is not verified, for example, with the laser scan. And last but not least, sometimes you have all the digital data and all verification, but information simply is not structured, and it's difficult and sometimes even impossible to find information. And again, these obstacles literally sort of doesn't allow you to leverage different IT systems, or makes it very complicated to do so. So you have to take care about the data which you are collecting during construction in order to further reuse it for facility management. Otherwise, it will be very, very tricky. So yeah, so in general, the solution is to focus on and develop this so-called digital twin, which according to our definition is basically actual 3D model of as-built BIM conditions verified on the site, with elements of BIM model containing facility management related information. And we have the link to which we can identify what project documentation correspond to certain BIM elements. And if we're thinking about the process itself, how does it line up? We can see that sort of this is a typical procedure, so which ends up at this in this sort of maintenance phase, in which we have again multiple different processes which we have to, but not have to. It's gotta make sense to make them more efficient. And to put it in more detail, it's always in a sense begins with employee information requirements, which kind of means that whenever you're considering any project development, let's say it could be like an office building or like a, I don't know, maybe it could be like a factory facility. It doesn't really matter the type of the building. But first you have to think about the requirements, what you would like to do. The second thing we have to understand that design phase also sort of is great impact in terms of overall delivery. But lately, and what we also see that typically employee information requirements covers mostly design phase. And if it's only covered design phase, it sort of leaves the blind spot for the construction and handover phase, which is very important and I would say very, very crucial in order to develop this digital twin in a quality which allows you to leverage the data for facility management and operational phase. And in order to understand what exactly do you have to require for construction and handover phase, you have to go deeper into facility management plan, which again, in a sense, creates this loop. And the loop is actually very complicated to get out of because you don't have facility management plan because you don't have a facility to manage. At the other side, you have to think about the requirements which you have to set in early beginning of the project in order to ensure that you will receive the digital twin, which you will then plan to use for facility management, for facility which you don't yet really have. So it's not a straightforward exercise in reality, yet one of the main recommendations for us is to focus on digital data which is structured and can be used and reused later on by any and different type of softwares. And of course, one of the main emphasis is about the open data, because once you go into the closed data, you put yourself in the position when you don't have a freedom of choice of the information management, freedom of choice of technologies that you plan to use. And that's again, that's just an additional obstacle. So the main thing about the workflow itself is and again, it's kind of a recommendation from our practical approach when we have to sort of deliver this digital twin, meaning that we have to maintain BIM during the construction phase, ensure that it's built according to BIM, and at the end of the day, deliver a BIM model which is verified on a construction site with information and attributes relevant to operational maintenance phase, and possessing a link with the documentation necessary for facility management. So yeah, and at the end of the day, if employee information requirements are set in a way that this digital twin is required, there's a sort of, it opens up opportunities to maintain long-term asset value and in a sense reduce operational expenses. And there's a sort of a couple of bullet points I would like to leave, and I have like 2.5 minutes. So basically, when we have this structured digital data, open data, at the end of the construction project, during the handover phase, we can then leverage it to, for example, use predictive maintenance, which basically can be perform user digital twins to identify potential maintenance issues before they occur. And there's a lot of, again, there's a lot of new tools coming into the market, which allows you to leverage this digital data, basically reducing the risk of unplanned downtime and extended life of the asset. Next is that digital twins can be used to optimize an asset performance, reducing energy consumption, and improving overall performance. And that basically leads to cost savings, and basically longer lifespan of the assets. Next is real-time monitoring of the assets. Again, it allows you to connect sensors to the physical and world, basically building, and integrating them with the digital twin. Next is that we can use digital twin technology to data-driven decision-making, which is actually very important whenever we have to think about either to reconstruction or do some any other operational activities. This digital twin gives you the full disclosed information about what exactly do you have and how you can make a decision about any other things like maintenance schedules, upgrades, or any other type of investment. And last but not least, by analyzing data and sort of simulating different scenarios, decision makers can make informed choices that basically can improve long-term value and ultimately reduce operational expense. So yeah, that's basically from my side. It's there's some context. If there's more information needed, feel free to reach out. So yeah, thank you very much. And I guess Julien will be presenting next, and he will be switching the computer. So I will stop presenting, and Julien will stop presenting. So thank you.
So now we have audio, so people should hear me. Perfect. So let's start with this. I will just say brief hello, putting my camera on. Good day, everyone. Julien Benoit here from Catenda. And I will not keep the video running, but share my screen instead. So I guess this is working now. Yes, perfect. So hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Julien Benoit from Catenda here. And in the coming minutes, I will introduce myself, my company, the company that I will introduce you today with different products. I will explain in brief the core of the company, the historical product that we have, everything around open data also. And I will focus, thanks to the latest addition to our portfolio, I will focus on use cases from our customers, because instead of showing you just features that we have on the product, I'd like to express how some customers and why some customers decided to use our technology on their project, focusing on facility maintenance and operations. So Catenda in brief. Catenda is a Norwegian company, and this adventure started in 2009. The founders of this company were working for SINTEF, that is a research and development organization in Norway, dealing with everything that is innovation around the construction industry. And these 5 people had a good idea, and they thought that with this idea, they could change the construction industry and make it way better. 2012, 2014, they launched the product as a startup company called BIM Sync at the time, and it was recently rebranded to Catenda Hub last year. Later on, there was the first international customer contract. It was Groupe Legendre in France, and that's the place I used to work at the time. Then there were more contracts and investment. Then there was the first office abroad open in France, investment in 2019, German office, and now we have one step at least in the US to open the market. Around 40 people at the moment, so we are still in the development phase, growing phase, you could say. And this is a map to show you where we operate. I can say I'm lucky to be in a company that is working globally. It's a great opportunity for any employee to learn from different culture. Inside the company, we have something like 17 or 18 nationalities. So we really work with an international crew. And we have partners around the globe that helps us serve different types of clients. The customers are quite different, as you will see later on. Few words about myself. So born and raised in France. You have my contact details if you scan the little QR code. Basically, you could say that I'm a guy from construction. I started as a site foreman in a large general contractor company, Bouygues Construction. And then I changed role, turning myself into a site manager. Then I worked in the office mostly as a construction engineer. And this is where I had a shift in my career, because this is where I got to be educated into software dealing with models, 3D, and then later on BIM. I joined the Groupe Legendre as BIM lead in 2014, and this is where I had to use a tool to democratize the use of BIM, and that was BIM Sync at the time. So that was my first contact point with Catenda. Enterprise agreement, then I decided to move to Norway, and I joined Catenda as a full-time employee in 2020 as a head of customer success. Nowadays, CCO is basically, I'm in charge of the customer relationship and dealing with existing customers. Some references, and I wanted to share that because we think it's important to demonstrate we have a large variety of customers. SNCF is an actor for railway in France, dealing with everything about trains. Bouygues Immobilier is a real estate developer. We have other companies like KSP Engel is a German architect. Statsbygg is a public organization in Norway. Schiphol Airport. Aegis is an engineering company. SBB is the equivalent of SNCF for the Switzerland. So we have really different kind of customers, all kinds of customers, I would say. We have small companies, extremely large companies. We really have a broad variety of customers using our solutions. So what is Catenda? What is Catenda doing? Catenda is a SaaS business, software as a service. So we are a software editor that produces software on a cloud-based. So everything we produce is cloud and easy to use because you use it via your internet connection and your browser. The historical product is called Catenda Hub nowadays. It was BIM Sync before. And this product is meant to be used in the early phase, design, also in construction. And we are moving slowly with the site management because now we have a Catenda site that is a companion app to Catenda Hub. We also handle inside Catenda Hub the document management. And then during the process, when the handover and commissioning phase occurs, we can move the project to a new product that is in production now for a bit more than 2 years, called Catenda Duo. And Catenda Duo will be my main focus in the time to come after these slides. Catenda Duo is the proposition we have for operation, maintenance, and facility maintenance of the project. And beside these 3 products that you can face as a user, as a customer, we have another product called Catenda Boost that is basically our engine. All the products that we have are built on top of this engine. And we also sell as a white label this engine to sometime competitors. So there are some competitors on the market today that are using our product as a white label. So you don't know it's us, but they are using our technology. Of course, we are an humble company. We don't have lots of resources, so we can't do everything that our customers will need. We know that, and we agree with that. So we will build instead an ecosystem with connection and integrations. So the goal for us is to be sharing data back and forth with a lot of others, software vendors. And we are either producing plugins so we can connect with other solutions, or we have what we call integration, which means softwares from other vendors will connect and share data with us. So we have here some of the main connections in a way, probably missing some of them, but you can see that we have the regular Revit, Navisworks, Vectorworks, Archicad must be somewhere, and we have ways to communicate and share information with those systems. We don't want to replace them all. We want to connect with them so our customers can have the best experience. The most important part of all of this is that we will forever rely only on open international standards, IFC for everything that is modeling and 3D, BCF for storing information and communication. BCF stands for BIM collaboration format. And new formats that we will add to the platform will always be based on international standards. It's been said before in the previous presentation. By doing so, we ensure that the data you put in our system remains your data, and at any time you can extract this data, keep it away, and share it with a new system without any loss. And that's our promise to any customers we have. Now we are considering adding, I think it's CTGML in the loop. And when we support standards like point clouds, we also include open international standards for that. And that's really part of the core of this company. A brief word about Catenda Hub, but that really be a quick one so you understand what it does. Here, it was built upon the original idea of project communication. Basically, the founders of Catenda realized that this industry could be better. There is room for improvement, as you can say. So what they realize is that a project today is involving a lot of different people with a lot of different interests, with a lot of different needs, and most of the communication is via email, which means one point to another point communication, and also the information is scattered all over and not always shared efficiently. So knowing that and having this as a starting point, we try to build a system called now Catenda Hub. It's called a CDE, Common Data Environment. And this is the place where we offer our customers to organize documentation, communication, and visualization, which means it's one place, one software, one solution when you can drop all your documents, you can drop all your drawings and models, and you can organize and collaborate around this material. And all of this stored in open standards, so you can at any moment get it back to you and reuse it later on. And this is the way we want to express our solution for the market, this magic triangle, as we call it, as everything is linked all the time. Communication is always linked with the document or model. Models can be linked to documentation, communication, and etc. A brief overview, it looks like this. Something that is important to know, it's like a real SaaS solution, which means it's only available online using your browser, which also means it's no headache for IT managers. There's no heavy hardware to get so you can use it. And it's also a product that is extremely easy to understand and implement in your organization. It's very quick to learn it. Now the heart of the matter. We have a new product on the market now called Catenda Duo. And the main focus for this product was, okay, we have a great processes now starting to be in place for the construction and design phase. But at the end of this process, the data gets stored in some way, and customers don't really have a way to make use of it later on. Like they don't have a solution to continue benefiting from this data during the maintenance and operation phase. And as you may know, the design and construction phase is always very short compared to the time of the usage of the building, of the facility. So from this starting point, we built on top of our Boost solution a new proposition that is supposed to be used during this phase and during a long period of time then. So here you have in a little schema the intention that we have with Catenda Duo. And this is where I will use my little laser. Here we go. One of the main factors that you need to understand for this product is that the person that is intended to be using it is not a specialist. It's not someone that knows the construction industry. It's not someone that is used to describe building or construction. It's a user like you and me. When we go in a facility, we open the door in the morning, we go to our desk and we work, and then we go back home. This user should be able to use this solution mostly to interact with the building, get information from the equipment, report a defect, and get information when there's planned maintenance. That's the goal. So this person here standing is definitely a user that is not a specialist. Then the product is defined into two main areas, you could say. On the left-hand side, you have everything around handover data, handover documentation, and maintenance. So we have connection between objects and technical data sheets, support for the documentation of the project, and also the use of a maintenance management system. It can be a simple one included in the product, or we can also have a connection with more advanced and professional systems that are already in place in the same concept as before. We don't want to do everything. We don't want to replace all the other softwares, but we can connect with them. So that's exactly the intention here. Of course, we have the visualization part, the 3D Explorer. So it's a combination of our 3D and 2D viewer to give the context to the user, so they know what they are looking at and they know where they are in the facility. On the right-hand side, you have the, maybe it's not today, but it's the future. It's the way to go into this smart building proposition. So for that, we need to have a companion called a BOS, or Building Operating System. This is a software solution that we need to connect together with Duo to your existing building. And this is the little software that will do the connection between the digital world inside Catenda Duo and the physical asset. And we will be able to share information with that. And what for? So thanks to this connection with the real world, we can connect to the building management system and also IoTs that the customer will choose to implement. We can report energy consumption. We can analyze some data from the energy monitoring equipments. And we can start to think about new services, meeting room bookings, parking lot bookings, and that kind of interaction between the physical and the digital world. What's special about our solution is that we also rely on open standard and IFC to extract information from the models. And from there, we will build a spatial, what we call a spatial repository, which means it's the backbone of the facility, composed of buildings, floors, zones, and rooms, which means it's an easy way to describe any kind of building. We will also classify the equipments into trades that are easy to understand for general public. You don't need to be a specialist to understand what is electricity or plumbing. And then we will also have this together with the viewer, so we can filter things inside the viewer and make things more easy to understand for the user. We also know that from experience, the construction industry is not ready yet to provide those systems with very advanced models. So we have tried to we try to limit the numbers of requirements to the bare minimum. So what you will need to use this system are the three things below: IFC models with IFC space, so we can give context to the data that we will expose. We will need a classification for the object because depending on the region you are, sometimes a door in a facade will not be a door, but it will be a window. So we need a bit of clarification of what the objects are meant to be used for. And finally, when we want to have this connection with the real building, there are some specifications needed to have connection with the IoT device or BMS device. But outside of those specifications, any simple model can be used inside this, this solution. I forgot to say something. Maybe you can use the chat if ever you have questions during the presentation. I think you can drop them in the chat and we can maybe answer later on. So in this part, what I was aiming to do is to get stories that we had with existing customers and explain why they chose our solution and why they are experimenting sometime with it, so you can understand the value we can deliver to those customers and maybe someday to you as a customer. The first one is from Norway, and it's Norsk Kylling is a company that creates factories to process food coming and creating goods and producing food out of chicken. Kylling is chicken in Norwegian. So this company has a mindset, it's an industrial mindset. They are used to produce goods. So when they create a new facility, they have the same mindset in a way. It's not like the typical customer. And I wanted to mention this case because they started implementing BIM as a process with one thing in mind: facility maintenance and operation. For them, the only purpose of having structured data during a BIM workflow was to benefit during maintenance and operations. And that's the only reason why they started to have to implement BIM on their project. So I thought that was interesting that these people were kind of forward thinking in a way. And this is still a running project, if I recall correctly. And they are using Catenda Hub currently and will deliver the project to Catenda Duo at some point. the next one now. So I ordered the different example in not in a difficulty order, but more like less only maintenance towards more the complex smart building activity, as you will see. The second example is a case from France, and it's a district or region called Gironde in the Bordeaux area. It's a public actor, and this actor is in charge of maintaining and operating public assets such as high school buildings. They have a lot of them, and they have a major issue that is that any small task for maintenance, corrective maintenance, they have their own employees, but the struggle they have is that they don't have a system to report efficiently the defects. So it's sometimes a phone call, sometimes it's an email, and in most of the case, it's always too late, or it's always late when they get the notice. So what they want to try with Catenda Duo is simply to have their assets, because they have a process of modeling their existing buildings, and the new ones will be with a BIM mandate. And what they're doing is that they will use only Catenda Duo to register defects in the facilities, so that the people in charge, that they are their employees, can efficiently go to the correct location with the correct equipment and the replacement parts, saving time and being more efficient. So this is an example of 5 of their facilities. So these buildings are schools, high schools, actually, in France. And it's a simple use case, I would say. It's not very advanced. It's not fancy. It's just that people from the site can declare an incident. So when something is broken, they have a way to connect to the platform with their smartphone. We can make a little QR code in a room so they can log in and declare that the door is broken, there's something missing and something needs a fix. The janitors are connected to the platform, they get a notification, and then they can plan their intervention and be more efficient in the way they will go and solve the problem. So the question seems easy, but there are nothing Excel except an Excel spreadsheet and some emails to do that before that. And now they will definitely push this solution to more of their building because they are quite happy with the solution. The next one is somehow similar. It's Ville de Thonex, which is also a public actor in Switzerland. And they have also a similar issue. They are in charge of maintaining and operating a large set of buildings with different challenges, of course. Some are small, some are larger. And they have their own employees to send and fix and repair stuff. So they have a need for Catenda Duo to do exactly as Gironde, organize the repairs in a way and manage that and know where it is. Localization is very important because when people have to drive different places, they need to organize that. But the other thing that they want to do, and they actually made us improve the product for that, is that they want to be able to use Catenda Duo for the preventive maintenance. So not only corrective maintenance because something is broken, but also preventive maintenance, so they can organize the interventions. They can say, okay, we'll have to go in this room in 2 months' time to change one door. And they want to organize that. Furthermore, they also want to add cost provision because they want to control how the maintenance budget is going. So any demand for maintenance needs to be evaluated. And now we have a little tool to input a cost in any maintenance ticket. And they are planning to analyze that later on and see how it goes compares to the provision they had. Again, quite simple example of using digital models inside the facility maintenance, but it's definitely helping a lot. The next example of a customer is quite different, if not completely different. Angevin Group is a general contractor in France. And these guys, they have success during construction and design. Of course, there's competition, and the competition at the moment always been fierce, but it's getting worse and worse, I would say, for general contractors. There's a lot of competition. And Angevin states that they want to become more attractive because they need to master a wider range of skills. Basically, they want to showcase that they have knowledge into organizing data, digital and also the physical building, to have a better monitoring of the activity and facility maintenance proposition. So they are investigating if they could go to the maintenance market, but they also want to prove to their customers that they have knowledge in-house and they can advise their customers to prepare for the facility maintenance phase. So they are doing an experiment by using their own headquarters as a showcase. They will use their building and invite people to say, hey, if you want to have a proper setup in your project for facility maintenance, we can show you how it works. So they have the model, they have the data linked to the objects, so they can organize that into Catenda Duo. They can easily access that, and they will also equip some of the rooms with IoT sensors to monitor air quality and also presence in meeting rooms. So they will be able to evaluate if the meeting rooms are correctly used or not. So it's a first step towards the smart building and the IoTs. But I think what was interesting in this case is that it's a general contractor that wants to prove he has knowledge and he can help his customer to do the right thing. Next is another interesting case of a general contractor. Not the same as the previous one. JAJO, Janssen de Jong, historically, is Catenda's customer for Catenda Hub from quite a long time now, but realized that as a general contractor group with different subsidiaries, they need to have a new proposition for the customers. Like just being design and build is not enough. They need to propose more. They need to engage with the facility maintenance part and deliver things that are top of the art in a way. So the way they put it, and it's a quote from the CEO that I quite like, one of the most useful tools to achieve the best results is BIM engineering. And I think that's a very good one, because if we need to express why BIM is important in the construction industry, I would say it's mostly because it's a new way of engineering buildings. So now we are running an experiment with them on their headquarters of one of their subsidiary, Hercuton. And what they did there is really try to learn from the usage of their building. They implemented Catenda Duo to connect the real building and the digital building together, connecting about the documents, of course. Each equipment can access the documentation when you click on the element. But more importantly, they have implemented a different set of IoT sensors that are able to give them data so they can understand the usage of their building. So a first example here is a meeting room in the first floor where they have some air quality sensors, temperature, but also they are counting how many people are staying in the room each time there's a meeting, because it's quite a large one. It's 20 people, but they realize that maybe it would be smarter to have 2 rooms of 10 instead of one big room for 20. So that's what they are collecting data so they can learn from the usage. Of course, they will use it also to register defects and maintenance, corrective maintenance, things to fix. But that's just the entry point in a way, but they are doing that also. And they go a bit further with registering air quality in different rooms on all the different floors. And the good thing with this connectivity with the BOS is that you can record data on a timeline. So you can record according to time, which means when you do your analysis, you can cross this data towards with the setup of the BMS, for instance. So what was the temperature setting and what was the real temperature? Same with ventilation. Is the air quality changed? Did the air quality change when the setting was changed? And that kind of stuff. Interesting use case for learning how it works. And the last one is learning from usage from their employee. Since the COVID crisis, lots of people are getting used to work from home. Home office is starting to be mainstream. And they realize that their open space, they have open floors where someone can pick a desk and sit for the day. They need to monitor how much is it used, because maybe they need to change the layout of the building. So there are some sensors, I have some pictures afterwards, that they put on desk to see if someone is sitting there for the day, and they register that in a timeline so they can analyze that and see if there's a change needed on the layout. So I've been in this facility several times because I helped on implementing the solution. And now that's some examples of these IoT sensors. The first one is called a proximity. So it's a 2 centimeters by 2 centimeters chip that you can stick on the wall or below a desk. And it's very easy. It's like almost plug and play. The second one here is a specific camera that is in the meeting room. And this sensor is able to check how many people are sitting in a room. It's anonymous. They don't record a real picture, but it's just, it has an algorithm to identify silhouettes. The last one here is a hub to collect several IoT sensors in different rooms. And the sensors, they look like that. It's a plug and play sensor that you can stick on the wall. And it will record air quality, humidity, CO2, particles, that kind of elements. And they have, I think, a dozen of them. And of course, at some point, you need to organize this data. And part of the system that we have, and it's quite an interesting proposition for our customers, all the data that is generated by these sensors is recorded according to time. So it can be a lot of data provided by these sensors. But the BOS system, the systems that allows the collection of this data is in this building. So the data doesn't get out of the property. Our system, Catenda Duo, just go there, it asks questions in a way. So we check the data frequently, but we don't extract the data to our system. So it's also kind of a security system that is quite nice for customers, because at any time, even there's the network shuts down, they will still keep the data in their house. So it's a quite interesting setup in a way. And now it will be the last one, and it's I would say the most advanced case that we currently have with Catenda Duo. And it's also the project that kind of helped writing the specification for the product. Habitat 76, Habitat 76 is a specific kind of actor in France, and I think it's not only in France, most of the countries have these kind of actors. It's a private organization, but they have what they call a public mandate. They are in charge of building, as a real estate developer, social housing. Their mission is social housing. So they are building everywhere in France, buildings to have low rental price and so forth. And this company has, of course, a lot of assets, and they were building their new headquarters, and they wanted to showcase what's the best in the industry in a way. So they wanted to have a net zero energy building, passive building, and also build what could be called the closest part of a digital twin, which means they wanted a full integration with systems and sensors so they can interact easily with their building. So in the coming slides, I will describe all the use cases that they have in their building, and they are using Catenda Duo for that. So the first one is maybe the most obvious. They wanted the handover to happen inside Catenda Duo. So the general contractor had, by contract, a mandate and obligation to deliver every as-built documentation on the platform connected to the correct element. So any element and part of this project, it's a 9-story office building, every documentation is available. So when you click on the door, you will get a list of 10 or 12 documents giving you all the information you need to either replace. Yeah, there's something. That's another. Maybe there's a glitch. Here we go. So you have any equipment you will click on in the model will give you the correct documentation as during the handover phase. This is a preview of the building here, and this is an example of one equipment that is a heater on the ceiling with the documentation attached. Of course, you can also have your documentation available, so any relevant information from the construction phase is also on the platform and can be viewed by any participants. And an interesting use case for the customer was, and not very much for the general contractor, was that they use Catenda Duo for the handover phase and to report all the defects. I don't know if you know, but when you deliver a new building, there's a race between the general contractor to leave as soon as possible because every building has defects on the first day. There are stuff to fix. And of course, the general contractor has an interest of running away so they don't have to fix everything. And in that case, they were not so happy with that because all the employees of this customer had on their smartphone the ability to report a defect because they were in the toilets, there was something broken, and they could just snap a picture, send to the system, and say, hey, there's something to fix it, please fix it. So happy customer, not so happy general contractor. But that was a brilliant use case, I think. Next, we are going now closer to the smart building. What they did here is that they made, of course, this passive building as automation. There's a BMS in place that allows people to regulate ventilation, heating, shades on the windows based on the forecast and the weather. But of course, when you're using a facility, sometimes you disagree with the system because you want more light or you want less sun at any given time. So they made a choice of getting rid of the physical buttons for all the curtains and shades on the facade. And the facade shades can only be operated either automatically via the BMS system or via Catenda Duo. So when you go on the platform, when you select a window like this one here, you get a panel with up and down buttons, and you can operate the shades directly from there. This is a view from the desktop, but you can also do it from your smartphone. And not only is it innovation in a way, but it also saved them a lot of money because on 9-story building, they saved for each room the presence of this switch for the shades, plus the cabling, plus the workforce, and so forth. So there was a lot of money saved just because of this solution. Second example is monitoring the usage of shared area. So on each floor, you have some shared space they call bubbles, I think, if I recall correctly. And these bubbles are small meeting rooms where any employee can go and work there for a moment. So in these rooms, you have sensors for air quality, but also presence. So if you want to find a place, instead of walking around for some minutes looking for a place that is free, you can just connect, check every floor, and see when a room is visible, is available or is busy. And you can save some time doing so. Also, as there are temperature and CO2 particle sensors, everything is recorded in a timeline which means you can learn from the usage afterwards. And that will be the last slide about this building here. Of course, they wanted to monitor energy consumption. So they have a different set of counters for electricity production, because there are some solar panels, electricity usage, heating, heating for water, and water consumption. So there are a different set of specific counters that are able to report the usage and send it back to the system. And finally, the last usage that they wanted to have is a service. It's the ability to see meeting room statuses, meeting room calendar, and to see if you can, if the meeting room is available first. And if it's available, you can make an express booking by just clicking on a button and keeping the meeting for like 30 minutes if you want. So that was the extra service that was implemented on that project. This building has been certified, so it's a new certification. I would say it's not really mainstream, but it's called Ready to Service, R2S. It's been created and supported by Smart Building Alliance, SBA. And this, what does that mean? Is that any system that you implement is on an open protocol, which means it's not a closed system. If in 5 years' time there's a new technology that happens to be on the market, you should be able to add this technology to your system. And that's exactly what it does. So we thought it was a nice certification to have for this building, and the customer wanted to, that was the goal in a way, reach that level of being certified R2S. So that's my last example of what Catenda Duo can deliver for our customers. Now, I'd like to give you some quotes or ideas to think, and I call that food for thoughts, because that's kind of the mission we have at Catenda. We think that sometimes we need to give a broader pictures of why are we doing this and what are we doing. So it's not, I'm not sharing this because we believe it's the only truth, but it's something to think about. The first one, we really believe that every dollar you spend in structuring data is not an expense, but an investment. It's been said before. Anytime you spend money on having a better structure for your data is something that you will save later on. We are in the computer age. You all heard about AI, and AI is a small portion of machine learning, and machine learning only works if you have data and structured data. So if you have to convince someone that you need to invest in that, and BIM is a nice way to organizing and structuring your data for your construction buildings, it's not an expense, but an investment. The second one, it's been said many times, we really believe that open data is the only available resource for collective intelligence. It's been proven over time and recently with some crises that data that is available to everyone to use in an open format, in a format that you can share with different systems, is the only way to get what we call collective intelligence and get smarter using this data. So again, food for thoughts, things to think about. And I think that's it for me. Thank you. Sorry. There's one question. Any comments, indication about the pricing policy? So we work with partners in different regions of the world, so it's always with agreement with them, and we adapt to the local habits. But in Catenda, usually we base our pricing model not on the amount of users and not on the amount of data, but more on the construction cost evaluation when it's a new project, and on the estimated cost of the building when there's an existing building for facility maintenance. So it's mostly about the size and type of building. I hope that answers. Do you have clients in Estonia? Do we have clients in Estonia? Yes, I think so. No? In Baltic region, yes. In Lithuania, yes. Estonia, not yet, but we will be very happy to have some. Are you familiar with CCI classification? So about the classification Catenda Duo, again, in the concept of being open, we have an internal classification. We started on the Uniformat 2 classification, but later on we had to build a mapping tool. So any classification that you like, any classification that is local, can be mapped into our system to Uniformat 2, which describe quite efficiently any kind of building. So any classification you may have can be implemented. Yes, definitely.
Thank you to Julien. It was an interesting presentation. And we will now wrap up. So thank you for listening, and see you soon.